Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you guys company on this beautiful Friday afternoon. That's right, we're trying to keep it real right here. And we're talking about all things that is going on right now. And one of the things we're going to be talking about, a lot of these things, the coronavirus situation in the country and all things related. But the main topic of today, though, is how leaders gather as the summit gets underway in Cornwall. So right now, that is the G7 summit. In case you guys are wondering what is happening, well, that is something that is actually happening this weekend so far. So it's kicking off with the things, and G7 summit is happening right now. So in case you guys, want to check it out, well, you guys can always see, but it's mostly behind closed doors. So we will get a verdict on what they're talking about by the time Sunday comes. Hopefully by the time Sunday comes, there will be some update with regards to that. And if you want to be a part of the show and get on board with us, all you got to do is simple. Hit us up on those numbers, 07852-473-473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. You can always feel free to call us up, or you can also download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And getting back to it, this is what is going to happen right now. Well, this is something that's underway at the moment. So the G7 summit has gotten underway in Cornwall with leaders of the world's richest nations, or the advanced economies. Yeah, that's right. And they're gathering for this traditional family photograph. So there was a photo of them, posing with all 7 leaders from these countries. And with that regard, US President Joe Biden is amongst those being hosted by UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson for the 3-day meeting. So the items on their agenda, we've been discussing about this, and what are the things, that they're going to be talking about. Well, it will be, the things that they will be discussing will be with regards to climate change, the COVID vaccine distribution, and recovering from this pandemic. Yeah, this year has been a bit of a mess. Like last year was worse. I mean, this time what they want to do is they want to talk it out, hash it out, and see, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to prepare ourselves? How are we going to come back from this? And it's the first time they're going to be meeting. This is the first time there's going to be a face-to-face event of its kind to be held since the coronavirus restrictions were put in place. So the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Canada are also taking part in this summit, which is happening in the seaside tourist hotspot of Caribbean Bay. That's right. So in their opening remarks, Mr. Johnson said, as they were in the main roundtable, Mr. Johnson said that as the world recovered from the pandemic, it was important to level up our societies and build back better. And he also, went on to add that he actually thinks that we have a huge opportunity because as the G7, they are united in their vision for a cleaner, greener world, a solution to the problem of climate change. So these are things, that they've been discussing. And they're going to be talking about these things with that relation. And you're looking at the things also the Prime Minister said that it's vital that we don't repeat the mistakes of the last great crisis. And that was the last great economic recession of 2008. So when the recovery was not uniform all across parts of society. So these are things, that they want to prevent and they want to avoid at all costs at this particular point in time. Yeah, that's right. And ahead of the meeting, Mr. Johnson pledged the UK would donate more than 100 million vaccines to poor countries in the next year, while Mr. President Joe Biden promised 500 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine to 92 low and middle income countries and the African Union. So, it just goes to show, they are taking this seriously right now. And at this point, they are donating. I mean, the UK did donate lesser than the United States, but then you have to understand we are hitting that target where we are planning to get every single individual in the UK vaccinated. So these are just solid things. This is one of the reasons also why the amount of vaccine that they are distributing is in comparison lower than the United States. And it's also the part that comes to play is that they might have more vaccines in production because they do have a bunch of other companies as well in their country, Novavax included, Janssen & Janssen. So these are just some of the companies, just to name a bunch of these companies that do distribute the vaccine. So the G7 nations are expected to collectively agree to provide 1 billion doses of the COVID-19 vaccine in an effort to end the pandemic in 2022. Well, before they're taking a photograph and all that, Mr. Johnson and his wife, Carrie, posted one-on-one pictures with each leader and their spouses by the sea. So they were taking a little bit of a photo shoot, they're taking photos of each other and all of them. And it just shows, that they're trying to show that there is some kind of unity formed with this. And there was also a picture online that I saw where Kerry Johnson and U.S. President U.S. President's wife, for the First Lady Jill Biden, were in a photo shoot. Also, there was a photograph rather of them together. So these are just showing that this is actually underway right now. And going on, the politicians will spend Friday in discussions before going to a reception at the nearby Eden Project, attended by the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and the Duchess of Cornwall, and the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. So the summit is going to be taking place. I mean, a lot of security. So if you are planning to go past that way, well, you might as well change your plans, because that is not going to happen. And these are, there's a lot of security because of this, large scale protests at these previous ones. So the previous G7 summits, there were so many people protesting on the roads. So this is one of the reasons why there is right now so much security. So 3 people were arrested a few miles away from the venue earlier on suspicion of possession of an article with intent to commit criminal damage, and 4 were arrested on suspicion of conspiracy to commit public nuisance. So this is pretty much a very serious deal right now. This is happening right now in the UK, and we are getting like I said, we're hosting it, and a lot of these leaders are coming down to the UK right now, and this is being discussed as we go on. Hopefully they will, if the way things are going, they might come some resolutions mainly for the Northern Ireland Protocol as well. That is something that is going on. There is tension between the UK and the EU, and the United States has been interceding for this, and they're trying to find a middle ground for all of this. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully they will find some kind of resolution when it comes to that particular point. But there's a lot of things you can expect. They will be talking about all these things that in detail, with included also, the climate change issues in the world that we are facing right now, and this comeback and the rollout of the vaccine of, right now the pandemic that is plaguing the world. So with that relations, hopefully they will come down to the conclusions of what they're going to do, and they will most probably give some sort of reply to all of these things. Hopefully, we are kind of expecting good news, because this is also a meeting between the 7 countries that are considered the most advanced economies in the world. And this is also the pre-meeting before the COP26. That's right. There's going to be a meeting that is going to be held in Glasgow. So this year is pretty much the UK's year, where we are going to be hosting all these big things. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully these things will, there will come, like I said, a resolution with regards to this. And taking a look at other things across the UK right now, well, there has been delayed lockdowns lifting, and this is what is the local health leaders have been urging, that a lockdown lifting delay should be introduced. And with that regards, like I said, because right now the number of cases have been rising, it doesn't look like it is going great at the moment. It looks like the situation is getting pretty dire with the number of COVID-19 cases across the UK. And the Delta variant is pretty much the dominant variant right now. So previously it was the Alpha variant, which is also known as the Kent variant. But right now, what we are seeing is a gradual surge when it comes to this Delta variant. So lifting the last COVID restrictions in England on the 21st of June should be delayed to stop us going backwards. This is what public health officials are saying. Well, finally, the gurus of the health industry are finally talking and raising their voices when it comes to this, and they're saying, okay, listen, it's not a great idea for us to be lifting the restrictions at this moment. And this is what we've been saying, all of this time. I mean, it's not the greatest of ideas, the greatest of plans to be opening up the country when we know there is going to be more cases. There's a rise in these cases, and we are trying to prevent that as much as possible. And to do that, though, the government has to realize that if we open up the country, it's like going to 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's something like that. Or was it 2 steps back, was it? I can't remember. But that's the saying. You go 1 step forward, come 2 steps back. This is essentially the kind of scenario that we want to prevent, and we want to, not happen. Well, so the government should listen to the public health officials. I mean, this is, for the good of the country, and unlocking the country right now would put the country in peril. And there's going to be an increase in hospital admissions. This is what the Association of Directors of Public Health have said. So the government is expected to announce on Monday whether it will remove the last of the restrictions a week later. So Mr. Nadim Zahawi said it would be careful. They had to be careful not to squander the progress made in tackling this virus. So they're saying, okay, right now we've made a big progress. We've made a good step forward, a stride forward. We don't want to go back to square one. We want to prevent that as much as possible. To do that, well, we will have to delay the lifting of the lockdown. But the final stage of lifting restrictions would see this whole legal limits on the social contact and all of these things removed. So you're not going to be required rather to wear these masks and all of that on the road. You don't have to keep social distancing, and there's going to be unlimited number of people going in pubs, bars, theme parks, you name it. That's what they're going to be doing, and that's something that they're going to be expecting as well. So they want to prevent that. So nightclubs will also reopen, and restrictions on performances, weddings, and other live events would also be lifted. So that's going to be a big problem. That's going to be an issue with regards to that. So there has been concerns about the spread of the Delta variant, first identified in India, also known as the Indian variant, now dominant in the UK, have led a lot of scientists also to call for this delay, and they have been urging the government so far, and they have been talking about it, and they have been discussing that, hey, listen, we have to make sure that we continue to keep this lockdown. So the latest official data suggests that nearly 30,000 new UK cases of the Delta variant in the past week, so accounting for 90% of these cases. So right now, like I said, 90% of the cases, the 30,000 of these COVID cases, they found out that it was mainly due to the Delta variant. So that is some crazy figures, some crazy numbers. If you look at this, if you consider this from this point of view, it is. I'm telling you right now, this is the best thing that we can do. These public health officials actually are making sense. I mean, they have to realize that this is not something that we can play with. We can't play with people's lives at the same time. So they have to make sure that they do this in a positive step. So this is just a positive thing that we need to do. Although it sounds depressing at first, people are going to thank the government at least for doing this, because then, the number of cases will reduce. We can get back, hopefully back to some sort of normalcy. So the Association of Directors of Public Health Vice President Jim Manis said he had a fiendishly difficult decision to make on whether to ease restrictions any further. And he says, it's understandable in in a situation like this, for a man of his status to be thinking about this. It just shows that it's a very difficult decision. However, he said that if we invest that little bit of time to keep us going forward, it will stop us going backwards. So if you get enough people infected, you will get a rise in hospitalizations. This is what he's saying. So this is something you're going to expect. This is something that will happen, and we can't prevent this. And he added that the more people getting infected will allow more variants to develop, which could risk a variant developing that invades the vaccine completely. So he's saying right now is, if we do this and if a mutation happens, then we're just going to go back to square one. And that's something that we have to prevent at all costs. And so, with that regards, though, he also went on to say that actually investing a bit of time is really important to enable the vaccine program to finish and do its job. So a lot of these things are being discussed, and about about recent reports, the government was considering a 4-week delay. So they were considering putting another month, and they said that this is something that they would. That he also went on to say that he would really welcome this, and this is the vice president of the public health. The directors of public health, he's been saying this. So Jim was saying all these things, and he just went on to say, that the latest government figures show that nearly 29 million people in the UK have had both doses of the vaccine, and 54.8% of the adult population essentially are completely vaccinated. So that's 54% of our population. That's more than half of our population has already gotten both of the doses. So that's something positive right there. Those are good news. Those are good figures right there. With considering the situation right now. I mean, this is a positive step for the people for the government and for the people in the UK. I mean, something to be proud of. And let me know if you guys got your vaccination, if you got both or one, or whatever the vaccine that you've gotten. Hit me up and let me know. 07852 473 473. That's right. You can always hit me up on our WhatsApp, or you can always check us out on our Instagram and Facebook as well. We pretty much go live on there, on YouTube. So make sure you guys check us out on those platforms. But with that being said, we're going to be taking a real quick break and taking a look at your time right now. It is 3:35.
and it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, and mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to Relax Radio, RELAKS, where we believe in positivity. That's why we don't have the X right there. And you're listening to Relax Radio. This is Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. It is, guess what? It is a weekend. It is almost, the weekend is upon us. I mean, it's a Friday. I mean, this is something that, I've been looking forward to. It has been quite a tough week so far, but, sometimes you just get those days. But yeah, anyways, with that being said, getting back to the topics at hand, we're talking about, how the vaccine, and there's going to be a delay in the lockdown, lifting of the lockdown. Hopefully that's what a lot of these local health leaders have been talking about. And getting back to the topic at hand, though, like I said, a lot of the people in the UK right now have gotten their vaccines. So the latest figure by the government has shown that nearly 29 million people in the UK have had both of the vaccines, and 54.8% of the adult population. That is 54.8%. That is more than half, rather, of our population that has gotten their vaccine, both doses of their vaccine. So that's just, great stuff right there. So looking at the graph, for the vaccine, the number of percentage of the people who've gotten their vaccine so far, well, the percentage of the people aged between 18 and over who received the first and second doses of the vaccine, well, currently the first dose in the UK, Wales is actually having the most. So they have 87% of their population vaccinated with the first dose of the vaccine. And Scotland has 78% when it comes to the first dose of vaccine, with England 77% and Northern Ireland 76% of their population have gotten the vaccine. So that's good news right there. You can see that there's a lot of the figure shows, a lot of the people have gotten and moved, stepped forward rather to get their vaccines. And looking at the graphs as well, you can see that Wales is, although Wales is leading when it comes to the number of people who've gotten their first dose of vaccine. So far, it is England that has gotten the most of their population vaccinated with the second dose. So the second dose is England, and then we have Scotland with 53%, and Wales with 52%, and then we got Northern Ireland with 51% of their population vaccinated. So that's, good news right there. You can see something, just taking a look at all of this is great news to see that most of the people are stepping forward and are, trying to stay true to their appointments. And asked about the government's decision on the 14th of June, Mr. Zahawi, the vaccines minister, has said we have to be really careful so that those hard-won wars that are against, the virus was not squandered. And he reiterated that the government would share the data on Monday, so they don't want to squander any of these, on the fact that, that we had the virus and then we went and we fought against it. So and he went on to say, that we all know the virus hasn't gone away, and its attempt it will rather attempt to mutate. And he said that the Delta variant is more infectious and more severe for those it infects. So we have to be really careful. And meanwhile, the latest R number, or the reproduction number in England, is estimated to have risen to between 1.2% and 1.4%, up from between 1 and 1.2 last week. So this is all according to the government scientific advisory group for emergencies. So you can see that the amount of the virus rather spreading, the way it's spreading, it is crazy. It's going up. From the numbers are rising. Like I said, the graph, it shows that the numbers are rising. So if the R number is above 1, and then the number of cases will keep on increasing. So on Thursday, the UK reported more than 7,000 new cases for a second day running. So the UK's last surpassed that figure back in late February. So, talking about all these things, Mr. Zhao, how he said the UK was on track to offer all those aged over 50 who had already had a first jab, a second dose by the time 21st of June is, by the time 21st of June comes. Well, he also said that no one in the UK would have to wait longer for a vaccine because of the country's contribution to the global vaccination effort. So the UK has pledged to start donating vaccines to poorer nations and countries in the next few weeks. So as a part of 100 million surplus doses, which will be delivered in the next year. So this is something that they are planning to do right now. They are in talks with regards to this, and they want to make sure that people get vaccinated as much as possible. They want the whole world to get vaccinated. Looking at things, I mean, it's a great step forward, in my opinion. Right now, the UK is playing their cards right. It looks like they're playing their cards right. Hopefully, they can keep up to that promise. So looking at things also, how a lot of people who have not gotten the vaccine, well, they are the people who will stand the loss the most. Because they're going to be the people who will lose the most, because because they're going to be more at risk when it comes to this new variant. So nearly 2/3 of the people infected with the Delta variant, and more than half of those who have died with it, have not had a COVID vaccine at all. And this is what the latest official data have been suggesting. So they're saying, okay, listen, people who've not gotten vaccinated, well, they are more susceptible. They're more prone, rather, to getting this virus, and they are more prone to get sick than the average person who has gotten it, because they have some sort of protection if they had the vaccine. But in this case, you don't have any sort of protection. You're essentially facing a vaccine without any form of your body doesn't recognize it, doesn't have the capability to recognize it. So it's like a new foreign body coming into you and attacking you for the very first time. So it is going to be severe. So there have been at least 30,000 new cases in the UK of this variant in the past week. And the Public Health England says, it's likely to spread more easily and could make more people more seriously ill. So officials are saying that although there's 2 doses of vaccines provide some sort of significantly, in their words, more protection than just 1 dose. So it comes as the ONS, or the Office for National Statistics, estimates the coronavirus infections are continuing to rise in England, with 1 in 500 people testing positive. But the ONS also found no obvious increase in infections in Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So the Delta variant, which was first identified back in India, is now the dominant variant. It's considered the dominant variant in the UK, accounting for 90% of the cases right now. So yeah, looking at those numbers, it's just crazy. And it's being closely monitored, though, by the PHE, which is using a new type of genotype testing to detect the variant more quickly as the cases continue to rise. So these suggest that the Delta variant is roughly 60% more spreadable than the Alpha or Kent variant. So analysis of the hospital admission rates suggests people infected by the Delta variant are twice as likely to end up in the hospital than those with the Alpha variant. But the numbers are still small, however, and out of 33 cases analyzed by the PHE confirmed to be Delta variant since February, 223 have been admitted to the hospital so far, and most were unvaccinated. So most of the people who did get this virus, well, it just shows that they were not really vaccinated. So with that point in mind, bearing that in mind, I would recommend you, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, make sure that you are vaccinated, because this is very important. We have to make sure that we are vaccinated, because we are, what's going to happen is, you see, we will get this vaccine, like I said, and it's not going to be something that our body will recognize in the beginning. So at least when you get the vaccine, your body will produce these antibodies that you require to fight this virus off. So you have some sort of protection if you do get the vaccine. But looking at things, if you don't, though, well, you are more at risk to become seriously ill. So, like I said, out of these 33,000 cases analyzed by the PHE, all this was confirmed to be the Delta variant. And 42 deaths in people with a Delta variant infection, 23 were unvaccinated, and 7 had received only 1 dose. So the other 12 had received 2 doses more than 2 weeks before. So 2 weeks earlier, they've had their doses of the vaccine. So right now, there's a lot of there's a lot of buzz going on with regards to this. And in the UK, more than half of the adults are now fully vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine. And like I said, most of them have gotten their first dose, and a lot of them have also gotten their second dose as well. So many of them are actually fully 54.6%. I'm telling you, that is a big number right there. When you look at the statistics, it shows that half of the population, the adult population, have gotten their both doses of the vaccine. So that's a great step forward for the people in the UK. And as more young people are vaccinated, protection against this new variant will basically rise. If you look at it, like I said, the figures and the numbers might show that it's not, right now we are having more cases. That is correct. That is true. But at the same time, it looks like it is easing out slowly and surely. And Dr. Jenny Harris, the chief executive of the UK Health Security Agency, said vaccination is our best defense. And she went on to say that if you are eligible, well, we urge you to come forward and be vaccinated. And remember that 2 doses provide significantly more protection than a single dose. However, Dr. Harris also warns that while vaccination reduces the severe effects of the disease, the risk of the severe disease, it does not eliminate it, because Delta is significantly more transmissible than the Alpha variant. So with that regards, you have to remember, even if you are vaccinated, doesn't mean you are you're bulletproof. Is what I'd like to say. It's the best analogy I could say. You are not bulletproof, so make sure you guys stay safe as much as possible. And Professor Adam Finn, a member of the UK's Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, said the current wave of infections was increasing faster than we have hoped for. But the vaccines do still work. The vaccines are actually doing their jobs. And the more population immunity we've got, the smaller this wave will be, is what he's trying to say. And right now, taking a look at all these things, it's we should get some sort of protection to protect us, to prevent us from getting this virus. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully this is something that we can avoid. And looking at this is some of the data, that they've been seeing. They are deciding right now whether they will lift the lockdown or not. So a lot of these scientists have been urging for that, not to lift the lockdown anytime soon. But let's see how it goes. Maybe something we can get out of this. Maybe we can get some positive news out of this. Hopefully by the time the G7 summit is done. And with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much has changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, you had one to forget.
That's it. Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well in the UK. You know, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. You know, when it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. You know how much. A lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, you know, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. You know, for the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to Relaks Radio. That's right. You know, we're trying to keep it real 100% all day, every day. And hey, yeah, we're going to be keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. You know, we're talking about all things that is going on right now. And there's a lot of these talks as well that's being discussed. And like I said, you know, taking a look at all these things that is going on right now, we have something else that is happening. Well, there has been plastic from takeouts and convenience stores littering rivers and oceans, but straws are not the worst offenders. This is all according to new studies. So right now, the studies are saying, okay, this is not the case right now. I mean, people like to say, okay, blame it on straws, blame it on this one-use of plastics, one-time use plastics. But you have to understand, just because it's like that doesn't mean that is the case so far. And yeah, looking at all these things, like I said, you know, all these things that is going on. Well, plastic from takeout and convenience stores are not the only thing that is littering the rivers and the oceans. So scientists analyze the global inventories in cataloging more than 12 million pieces of litter found. And around all of these are around rivers, oceans, shorelines, and the seafloor. And they found 8 out of 10 items were made of plastic. And 44% of this plastic litter related to takeout foods and drinks. So single-use bottles, food containers, and wrappers and plastic bags were made up of the biggest of these shares. So it shows, hey, plastics, well, when it comes to these plastics, straws are not the criminals. It's actually this whole single-use bottle. So they went out and there was a study done by a group of scientists. Well, the study leader, Dr. Carmen Morales of the University of Cadiz, Spain, said it's shocking to find out that the bags, bottles, food containers, and cutlery together with wrappers account for almost half of the human-made objects on a global scale. So we found them in rivers, on the seabed, deep in the seabed, on shores, and floating off our coasts. So what is going on? And looking at this, measures to cut these plastic pollutions have focused on the likes of straw, on cotton buds, and drink stirrers, which are relatively easy to replace. And the researchers say these actions are welcome, but they also recommend that, we got to tackle plastic from takeout food and drinks as well. So what is going on? Why aren't we doing it? Well, they say that this type of plastic, the type single-use plastic, is often thrown. It's discarded outdoors after being used for only a short time and only should be prioritized. These things should be prioritized because, look, after you're done with a meal or a burger or a pizza or whatever, you throw it away. You throw these plastic cups away. So this is just pointless is what they're trying to say. It's just very short, amount of time we're using this. So they say that this type of plastic is often thrown away, and writing in the Journal of Nature Sustainability, they suggest 3 possible strategies for tackling the problem. Replace the plastic in takeout food and drink with more easily degradable material. Bring in regulatory bans on plastic that can be avoided, such as bags. And also consider deposit refund schemes to encourage shoppers to return takeout products. So this, when you look at it from that approach, it sounds pretty smart. I mean, I for one would say, hey, that's also a very smart idea right there. Because look, think about it. These are some of the ways that they want to cut down on the single use of these plastics. Because imagine if you're watching the river, or you're trying to drink from the river or whatever, and then you see a plastic bottle going on. I mean, there and then itself, you don't even want to drink from that stream or river or whatever. Or when you take a dip in the ocean, well, when you see a plastic bottle in the middle of nowhere, well, that does bring your hopes down a little bit. And you think, okay, wow, the environment is, polluted up to the point because of these plastics. So what they're suggesting is 3 different, very small, but very big different changes. So this is basically replacing the plastic in these takeout food and drink with more easily degradable material. So the material, like it could be paper cups or not even paper cups, something else that can be more degradable. And bring in regulatory bans. They're saying, okay, we have to bring bans on the use of these single plastics. And also consider, a deposit scheme. So you're encouraging people. In a way, you are encouraging people and telling them, hey, listen, if you have plastic, we'll bring it back to us. We will pay you. And that is very smart. I think I saw that was it Sweden or in Netherlands, where they did something like that, where you after you're done with the bottle, make sure you just put it inside this dispenser that takes it, and then they give you money. I mean, that's, in a way, you can get some money out of that. I mean, that's a great stuff right there. That's a good innovation in my opinion. So the studies also highlighted the problem of litter from fishing gear, such as plastic nets and ropes, which was the biggest problem in these open seas and these oceans. And they saw a lot of these being dumped, and discarded nets and lines can also be deadly for a lot of these aquatic and marine wildlife. So yeah, it says all these plastics, if you consider, even recently, right now, there was an issue, I think it was in Sri Lanka, where a freighter actually burned down, and all of its plastic was cast into the ocean, and it caused a lot of environmental damage as well. Looking at all that things, looking at from that situation, the plastic situation is terrible, because a lot of this aquatic life have passed away. They perished because of this situation, because of this whole problem right now. You can see this, it's huge. It's a huge deal as well in the world right now. There's a lot of these granules went into the ocean, and it's also leaking oil. So that's also just a part of it. So getting back to the topic at hand, like I said, these plastics are the major concern. They are the reason why a lot of these aquatic life is dying. So taking a look at all these things, this is something that we have to stop. We have to make sure that we don't produce these things anymore. So a second study by the University of Cadiz looked at litter released into the ocean from rivers in Europe alone. And they say estimates suggest between 307 to 927 million items of floating litter that travel along the European rivers to the sea each year. So 925 million items. That is so many millions right there. It's crazy. And all these plastic is made up of about 80% of this. So 80% of the plastic that you do see in the ocean, well, it's because of these single-use plastics like bottles or plastic bags or stuff like that. And this dominated, by bits of plastics as well as, this plastic, like I said, it's 80% of this is dominated by these bits of plastic, as well as these single-use plastics such as bottles, food packaging, and bags as well. So Turkey produced the most litter, which is 16%, followed by Italy, which is 11%, the UK at 8%, Spain at 8%, and Greece at 7%. So lead researchers Dr. Daniel Gonzalez said action was needed to encourage consumers to reduce their plastic consumption. So he went on to say that we need to act from a citizen's point of view and also from the policy side. So, with these considerations, like I said, the situation is not going great as we'd like to think. And we have to find ways to make sure that, we can cut back on these plastics. Because like I said, situations like in the country of Sri Lanka where there's already pollution, but then a ship like this, just breaks down. And then all of these plastic granules start floating in the sea, and it dumps, and it wrecks a lot of the marine wildlife. So that's going to be a big problem. And it is going to affect us in the long term. So things like that, why they want to prevent all of these plastic situations right now. And these are just things, we have to consider as a country, as a nation. We have to move with that mindset as well. And we have to realize, okay, the situation we require right now is we have to make sure that we stop the use of this single purpose plastics. And that includes the packaging, food packaging, that includes these cups, that drink cups, and all of these things we can prevent, and we can cut down on this and maybe find alternative things that we can, suggest, and maybe people can adopt, so we can make sure that this, we can prevent the cut of the amount of plastic. Because look, I've seen also articles where it says there were islands of plastics in the middle of the ocean. I mean, islands of plastic. I mean, that in itself shows how much plastic the world has been dumping into the ocean. Just because the ocean is huge doesn't mean you're throwing, your garbage truck. You're not supposed to throw your trash like that. I mean, this is one of the reasons why they want to encourage, and these scientists right now are actually encouraging people, and they're saying, okay, these are just alternatives that we can actually adopt, and countries, like I said, have already started doing this. Have already started, putting this into effect, I'd like to say. And they said that, okay, there's going to be deposits, refund schemes to encourage a lot of these shoppers, to return their takeout products. So in case you have a plastic bottle you want to throw away, well, instead of just throwing it away, you can just put it into these dispensers and they'll take it for you, and you will get money out of it. I mean, isn't that a good thing? I mean, I think that's a good thing. It encourages the normal average Joe to go ahead and make sure that, they don't litter, especially with plastic. They don't litter it around. And we can prevent all of these things, because it's unfortunate to see that most of the things that are affected with these single-use plastics is the ocean. And then we got the rivers and all of these lakes and ponds. So we have to prevent this. We have to make sure, because look, end of the day, it's an unfortunate thing. It is sad to see that, there is something like this going on, but we have to make sure that we move the positive. We take the positive step. We make sure that we initiate this, because if not now, when are we going to do it? So this is just, some of the things that we should do as a whole, as a society. I personally believe I am totally against banning plastics. I mean, do we need the plastics right now? Yes, we do. We depend on them. But the phone you use, the charger you use, those are things, okay, those are not single purpose things. Those are things you need for a while. But in comparison to these, fast food stores, you go into a fast food store, you buy a burger, or you buy a pizza, or whatever it is, you buy a taco, or whatever you think, or whatever you like. You take these wrappers and it's done. After you're done eating, well, you just throw them away. You don't really need them for any other purpose. Well, that's the whole point of this. And this is why these researchers have found out, okay, this is not going to work. If we keep doing this, there's going to be even more pollution. I mean, look at the statistics. Looking at it, Turkey produced most of the litter in the world. 16% of trash is from Turkey. And that shows you the figure. A country that small produces 16% of the litter in the world. I mean, that's a lot of, I'm telling you, and it's all got to do with these plastics. So right now, between 307 to 925 million items of floating litter travel along European rivers to the sea each and every year. So they estimated it between 925 million to 307 million of these items, these objects, these single-purpose objects into the river. From these rivers, they travel to the open sea. So it shows, like, okay, it's a lot. If you think about it, it is a lot. 925 million, that is more than a population in some countries. And that's how much plastic we throw into the ocean. And just because the ocean is vast doesn't mean that, it'll be gone forever. It always washes back to the shore. I mean, we saw that recently too in England, where we saw a lot of these trash as well into our beaches. So this is something, of concern. This is a very big concern. And we have to make sure that, we take the necessary steps to avoid this. I mean, these are just some of my thoughts. If you guys have anything to say about this with regard to this, about single-use plastics and maybe different ways, alternatives that we could come up with, well, hit me up on those numbers, 07852473473. Those are the magical numbers. But with that being said, we're going to be taking a quick break. Take a little of your time. It is 4:08. Good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
You're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
back to Relax Radio, Relaks. It is, a beautiful, beautiful Friday. And looking at things, that way it is. It's the weekend. Yeah, the weekend is around the corner. I mean, you guys can always tell me what your plans are. My plan, well, as usual, it's always sleeping indoors, staying home. I mean, because look, we gotta recharge sometimes, and you just need to recharge. I mean, look, sometimes there are days where I'd like to think if we can have a 3-week holiday. I mean, that's something to consider about. I mean, this is something I'd like. I mean, look, 2 days is just not enough. I mean, let's be honest. Saturday and Sunday is just not enough. You have 1 day to sleep and do whatever, recharge, and then Sunday you have to do your laundry, fold your clothes or whatever, iron your clothes or whatever, and then go out and try to have a social life. But it's 1 day is not enough. I feel like we need 3 days. I'd like to have 3 days. I mean, if you want to as well, hit me up and let me know if you agree. 785-473-4703. That's right. This is a Real Talk with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all things that is going on right now in the UK. And with all these things that is happening, the UK economy grows the economy grows in April as shops are reopening. So back in April, the economy was growing when you take a look at all these things. And like I said, there was a boom because people were going back into the streets and they were, glad about it. I mean, look, we were stuck in for almost a year, and we were stuck in for quite some time, actually, since November. And then we open up on March again, completely try to open up on March, between the end of March. And it was around the first week of April, I think, where we started opening up. And then, boom, everyone started going out crazy and they went wild because it's like there's no more pandemic anymore. And it's with that consideration, the economy did go and get boosted up. But the UK economy grew by 2.3% in April, its fastest monthly growth since July last year. So shoppers spent more on these high streets as non-essential shops reopened, and people bought more cars and caravans. And there was also more spending in pubs, cafes, and restaurants as restrictions eased. The Office for National Statistics have said this. And despite the surge in activity, the UK's economy is still at 3.7% below its pre-pandemic peak. So right now, it's not at its greatest. I mean, we're still at that point where it's 3.7% below than it was before its pre-pandemic peak. But still, 3.7 is still better. I mean, it's still good numbers. If you look at it, we are getting better. So construction fell in April, though, compared to the strong growth in the previous month. But the sector remains above its pre-pandemic peak. So Chancellor Rishi Sunak said the figures were a promising sign that our economy is beginning to recover. So Mr. Sunak said that 1 million people had come off the government's furlough scheme in March and April as businesses reopened. And Jonathan Athel, the ONS Deputy National Statistician for Economic Statistics, has said that that was definitely a mouthful right there. But he went on to say that, the strong growth in retail spending, increased car and caravan purchases, schools being open for the full month, and the beginning of the reopening of hospitality all boost the economy in April. So this is something that, that they wanted to do, and they got it. And like I said, looking at the numbers, it was pretty good. Like I said, a lot of people who were on these furlough schemes, they came back out and they started getting jobs. And you could see there was a big economic boost and growth to society, to the UK's economic growth in overall. So that's great news right there. And this is something that happened. And like I said, a lot of spending was also there. People did spend a lot of money on a lot of these non-essential things like caravans and cars. And but it just shows, the economy boosted because of that. And looking into all of this, the chief economist at KPMG UK, Yael Safin, said shoppers flocked back to the high street as households spent some of their savings on non-essential goods. So spending in non-essential goods drove much of the growth as customers were allowed back into stores from the 12th of April in England. So with clothes stores seeing a boost of 69.4%. So retailers actually had a boost like that, 69.4% boost. I mean, from a point that was, almost negligible to that much, it just shows that people were itching to get out of the house. But right now, although the situation might change, it's expected to change because right now scientists are saying that there is a possibility. They are actually urging the government to consider making sure that we lift this whole lockdown of the country, delay it, make sure to delay. They want it to delay the lifting of the lockdown is essentially what these scientists and a lot of these public health workers were saying. So overall, right now, they're looking at the figures. Overall growth in service sectors was 3.4%, although it remains 4.1% below the pre-pandemic levels of February 2020. So this included restaurants, bars, and cafes, and where customers could eat and drink outdoors again, seeing a 39% rise in their growth. So people used to the ability to travel across the country again with a lot of these activities with caravan parks and holidays. Growing between 68%. So that's, a lot of these things have been seeing a boost because of this, because the market was down for quite some time. And then now we're back in it. People are back into it. And, a lot of these hairdressers as well and other personal services grew by 63.5%. So further relaxation of lockdown rules is planned for the 21st of June right now, which would let pubs, bars, and restaurants increase the number of people allowed indoors. But now that looks like it's very unlikely, though. Like I said, with the number of variants happening, the cases that are happening, it is showing that the most dominant of the viruses right now, the variants right now, is the Delta variant. So regardless of any pause in reopening, Ms. Selfin has said that economic activity levels in May and June would not rise at the same rate as the April rebound. Well, one of the ways the pandemic has turned normal assumptions upside down is that a shrinking economy can be the successful outcome of deliberate government policy. So the government wanted to suppress economic activity to combat the virus. The public largely abided by these restrictions and the economy shrank. Similarly, when you ease restrictions and suppress activity, it comes back leading to the sort of growth in a month that you'll more than normally see in a year. So a lot of this growth that you would expect in a year, well, it happened in a month because, like I said, there was a spark in interest and people wanted to get out of the house and make sure that they did what they wanted to do, purchase and buy and buy and buy, because that's how it always works. I mean, you're stuck at home for almost a year. What do you want people to expect? I mean, that's something that they are going to be doing, and that's something that they want to do. And nobody's going to stop them because of that. So with that, in consideration in mind, people actually did buy a lot of things that they don't really need because of this pandemic. So the economy has been growing now since January, but the bounce back is slower than the 7.3% growth recorded in July 2020, when restrictions of much of greater severity were being lifted, and we still have a steep hill to climb at the end of the first quarter of the year. Our economy has taken the biggest knock of all the G20 economies. In stark contrast to the likes of Korea, Australia, India, or Turkey, which had already recovered beyond pre-pandemic levels. Well, the confident official prediction is that we're in for a 7% growth this year, which should boost the weak international performance. So let's hope that confidence isn't misplaced. But like I said, with the lockdown happening, it's very unlikely that there will be a great boost in consideration to that. But there's something that will definitely happen, though. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully, this is something that they can consider. And looking at all these things, Miata Fanabule, the chief executive of UK's think tank New Economics Foundation, said that the figures were in line with what was expected, which is a bounce back as the restrictions were eased and the economy starts going back to normal. But underneath this is probably going to be a story of two halves. So the GDP numbers tell us the economy is recovering, but it's likely to be uneven, with the bounce back driven by parts of the economy that have essentially been insulated from the worst parts of the pandemic and other parts of the economy as well. So those with no work or no small businesses, well, they're really, really struggling. So big chain stores and all, well, they are, okay, they did struggle for a bit, but then they're well off right now. If there's a bounce back, they're going to be the people who will reap from all this the most, in comparison to the people who own these small businesses and small shops. Well, they are going to be struggling really, really hard. Even given the government, starts removing some support going into the autumn. So they're going to be stopping all of these supports right now. So this is something that they are going to be struggling with. Let's see. Hopefully, a bounce back is expected. But the way things are going, the people who are going to be worse off will be the people who do own their own small businesses. Well, although separately from all this, there is continued friction in the trade between the EU and the UK. So this is all due to the post-Brexit situation right now, although that is less than that at the end of the year. Well, Mr. Adel from the ONS said the exports of goods have now broadly recovered from the disruption seen at the beginning of the year. However, imports of these goods from the EU are still significantly down on 2020 levels. So in compared, with 3 years ago, the last time trade was unaffected by either COVID or concerns of a disruptive Brexit. Well, British goods exports to the EU this April were 7.1% rather, 7.1% lower than their average for 2019. So these are just, the numbers, looking at all these things and tallying this all up, it says that right now it's been a very turbulent year, I'd like to say, and very turbulent year, and the year before also was worse. Nobody expected, like I said, the pandemic to shake things up the way it did, but then it did happen. This is something we can't stop. It did happen. No point crying about milk that is already spilled and water. It's all water under the bridge. And yeah, it just shows that right now the situation does demand that we grow as an economy, because like I said, the people who are going to be getting affected by this, the blowback will be to the people who are owning their own small businesses. They're running their own small businesses. Well, they are the people who are going to be struggling because of this. So if we don't bounce back, and again, the government will make sure by the time autumn comes in, they are going to be taking off those supports that they have been giving to these businesses. So with that in consideration, with that in mind, it shows that although the economy is growing somewhat, well, it's still not growing to the point of the pre-pandemic level. So hopefully those things will change, with the coming of weeks and with the coming of days. But this is just something to be expected. Let's see how it goes. And with that being said, taking a look at your time right now, it is 4:27. Good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. it will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to the show. This is Relaks Radio, RELAKS. Where we're trying to keep it real. We're trying to keep it 100% all day, every day. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be keeping you company all the way until 3 to 6. So make sure you guys, keep it locked right here. And my name is Nick. We're trying to keep you entertained with all things that is going on right now in the UK. And with all these things, that is being discussed. Like I said, we got the coronavirus case. We got a lot of these cases going on. We got the delays, the possible delays in lockdown, and all these things are of right now of interest right now. That is actually big. A lot of these big problems that is going on, and we got the summit as well, and the possible tradings problems right now. We got possible the shadow. I'd like to say the shadow of a possible trade tensions with the EU. Yeah, that's right. So all these things, it just, sometimes you just need to, like I said, you also have to take a breath sometimes and take a step back from all these things. And just take it easy for some days and just, tune out of all these things, I'd like to say, and make sure, you relax and you take it easy. But yeah, with that said, though, getting back to things that is going on right now in the UK. Well, outdoor education centers fight school trip ban. So there is a situation going on with an outdoor education center is seeking a judicial review of the irrational decisions to restrict residential stays. So a pre-action protocol letter has been sent on behalf of Rose Iguai in the Gwynedd, so run by Sarah and her husband and Ed Jones for 16 years. So Sarah and Ed Jones for 16 years, they've been running this right now, this outdoor educational center. So competitors over the border of all these things, with this regard to all these things, competitors over the border have been open for weeks with residential visits allowed in England from the 17th of May and 31st of May in Scotland. So the Welsh government said the rules were in place to keep people safe. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones said restrictions in Wales remained much tighter, resulting in schools potentially favoring trips elsewhere in the UK. So currently in Wales, up to 3 extended households can share an accommodation. And you can share an accommodation with these particular people. Yeah, up to 3 people. That's it. That's more than that you cannot do. But, they're saying, okay, right now we can do that. But overnight school trips are still not allowed except of small group visits using single accommodation, such as Duke of Edinburgh expeditions. So Mrs. Jones said, we want to hear the evidence from preventing overnight stays at outdoor education center. So far, we have received no justification at all. So why should children who are already operating within a bubble for educational purposes be treated the same as a group of non-related adults? And the argument right now is, look, I have no words what to say. This is how these things work. People want to get back into the business. They need back their money back. They need to get out of the house. It's the way they use these things is just really disappointing. And they say, all these things. And how is a bubble of school children sharing the dorm worse than 200 adults cramming inside a Boeing 737? And that's also a very smart way to put it. But children, and she went on to say, Miss Jones went on to say, children and education should be a higher priority and viewed separately from the general public. They are a lower risk group in terms of age and case. A lot of these cases have remained flat in schools. So right now, she added, that we've been continuously closed since March of 2020, and we haven't had a bumper summer in 2020, like many tourisms and hospitality businesses. So right now, we are a year-round business, but as you would expect, summer is our busiest time, they're saying. And they went on to say that we have now lost 2 summers, 2 peak seasons of businesses, and still have no idea when we are likely to be able to resume trading. And to add to all of that, our costs will now rise again with the tapering furlough as it did last summer. So we have now had to weather this storm twice. And it's an absurd situation and it needs to be reviewed urgently. And she's making her plea, and they're saying, these with regards to all these things is also very important. So Tim Taylor, who runs the Patterdale Hall in Penrith, England, which he said had benefited from the restrictions in Wales, and went on to say that since the guidance changed in England, we have been inundated with calls from a number of schools each day wanting to find alternative residential provisions where they would have once visited Wales. And it's really worrying for the damage that will do to the Welsh centres, bearing in mind 98% of their businesses is repeat business. So if this happens, they're going to lose a lot of customers, is what the whole point is. And with that reason, there's also a lot of these issues going on right now with that regards. So, there's just these problems that are going out right now with people who want to travel to these places, and with all of these things, it just shows, the situation is, as dire as we think. It's not easy for a lot of these businesses to bounce back from this situation. So with that regards, though, people have been struggling. Businesses, like I said, have been struggling, and they come up with a lot of their reasonings for why they should start, why the business should start again. But at the same time, we have to consider the situation. But the government also will have to find a way to deal with these people as well, to help them out, because they are also struggling, and they are also part of the masses. So, we have to make sure that, we find a way to help them. in my opinion. And looking at those things though, the COVID situation in Wales. How many people have died so far? Well, no new deaths with the coronavirus have been reported in Wales back in Friday, according to the Public Health Wales. So this is by the PHW, and there have been 118 new cases reported, taking the case total to 213,642. So since the start of the pandemic, the total number of COVID deaths remained at 5,571, with only one death reported in 2 weeks on Thursday. So Wales' case rates has gone and risen up again, climbing to 13.5% and 100 per 100,000 people, up from 12.4% on Thursdays. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you think about it from that point of view, well, that is a positive thing to be expecting. I mean, to see that is happening is just great news right there. Like the number, like I said, there's not been that many deaths with that cases so far, but it's risen again though very recently. Like I said, like looking at the figures, it has risen a little bit, and it's unfortunate, but this is what is going on right now with the relaxation of the restriction and easing down of the restriction and lockdown in the country. Well, this is something that we have to expect. And a further 6,180 people have received a first vaccination, and the total now stands at 2,201,665. So this is equivalent to 69.8% of the total population. So further 22,111 people have now had a second dose. So that total now stands at 1,336,479,000. So this is just equivalent to 42.3% of the total population. So looking at all these things, like I said, there are spikes. There are, there are going to be issues like this. But at the same time, these spikes included, though, right now, there's not been that many deaths. There's not been any deaths reported so far since Friday. So they said, okay, on Friday, no cases whatsoever. So this is something of a great news. I'd like to say that, in a way, right now, the more we stay protected, the more we get the people vaccinated, the more protection we stand and we have. So we have to make sure that we can do this and we can continue doing this as a whole, as a country. Hopefully, this is something that will last, and it will reverberate with our actions. The consequences will reverberate if we don't get vaccinated. Because like I said earlier, there is the possibility that if you are not vaccinated, if you're unvaccinated, and I'd like to say, if you're unvaccinated, well, the issue stands that you will get severely ill with this new variant. So you better watch out. You better make sure that you are vaccinated. Otherwise, you're going to fall into trouble. You're going to fall into some problems which you could have avoided in the first place. So why not do it? Why just take the risks? Is my 2 cents on this. I'd like to say that it's better to be safe than sorry. And to be safe, well, just get the second jab. Just get the first jab first and then get the second one. I mean, what's the holdup? I mean, the government is giving it to you. Why not take it? A lot of people around the world, in the country, and around the world, rather, are unfortunate enough not to have the same privileges that we have. And they are getting vaccinated. So what is the reason for you not to? So it's my 2 cents on this thing. I mean, look, end of the day, like I said, we have to be accountable for this. And, we are a piece of a giant machinery. So we are just one piece of the cogwheel right there. And, we have to play our part. And our part is, to make sure that we are vaccinated so we can stop the spread and the possible spread of this virus. And if we can do that, well, we can reach normalcy again. We can get back to normal, and everything can be fine and dandy again. I mean, will it erase the fact that we had corona? Well, it won't. It's always going to be there. It'll always be there. We'll always remember this. But at the same time, it'll also show that we took a positive step forward when we were faced with a dire crisis like this. And let me know what you guys think on that. Hit me up. The numbers are 07852473473. Also, don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And your time right now is 4:45. A good evening.
Climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, if you think about it, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you'll interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" Hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. Got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on air, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to the show. Yeah, that's right. This is Real Talk with me, Nick, giving you company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all things going on right now. And one is the school skirts ban. Yeah, St. Martin's in California changes their uniforms. So, yeah, that is also a discussion right now. And, yeah, it's got to do with the skirts. And a head teacher's banned skirts from his school, citing frequent complaints that they were far too revealing. I mean, yeah, that's the issue at hand right now. I mean, there's also these, it's great to see sometimes when you watch the news where you see these small things that sounds like, oh, okay, this is something that on a normal day you would notice. And you see something like this right now during the pandemic. It is a pretty big news, in my opinion. And in an email to parents at St. Martin's School in Carafilly, Lee Jarvis said from September, both pupils and staff must wear tailored trousers or shorts. So the change proved unpopular with some parents, with one describing it as unfair and another saying the secondary school should focus on other issues. So Mr. Jarvis said he did not want to comment any further with regards to this. So the email to parents at the comprehensive said, over the last couple of years, our school community has had concerns over the length of some learners' skirts. Well, staff and learners are included in this, and members of the public have frequently contacted the school to complain about what they regard as highly inappropriate and far too revealing attire for the workplace. And despite us attempting to educate learners as to appropriate school wear and issuing a school badge skirts of an appropriate length, we have not been effective in ensuring that learners adhere to the appropriate workplace attire. So we have therefore concluded that this item of clothing needs to be removed from our uniform policy from September and replaced by tailored shorts for hot weather or alternatively trousers. So he felt, and he went on to say that, I felt it was prudent to write to you to let you know this is plenty of time before we all begin to consider purchasing new uniform for September. And one mother also went on to say, my daughter is not happy and does not want to wear tailored school trousers. And I think it's unfair. Don't they have other things to worry about after we've all come through COVID? And another said, I disagree with this. It should be addressed per child and not penalize the whole school. So about 98 pupils attend the comprehensive sixth form school. So campaign group Let Clothes Be Clothes said on social media that skirts are banned only. So how can they complain they are not fit for purpose? So this head is not showing good leadership and allowing uncountable strangers to police girls and female staff bodies and dress. So it's not the first time, a school has banned skirts. In 2019, bans at both Appleton Academy in Wyke, West Yorkshire, and Stowmarket High School in Suffolk prompted this criticism as well. And with this regards, there's also these problems as there's a lot of these, these things that, like I said, you would not normally see these during a pandemic where, you see is either Corona or the lockdown situation or political problems like this going on. But, when you see these kind of things as well, it does put for me, it's not something that I should be happy about, but then it does put a smile on my face to show that we can still be worried about these things because these are important things as well with that regard. So, the cases right now all across the country, with a lot of these problems going on, it just shows, the situation is not as great as it was seen. And when cases like these do pop up, well, it does, like I said, it's a nice change of pace, I'd like to say. So looking at things, though, that is going on right now, there has been a surge, and they say, okay, right now, there has been talk with regards to the COVID surge, how it will put the Euro 2020 fan zone into reverse gear. So that's something that is going on. There has been a lot of criticism when it comes to this whole situation with regards to the Eurozone 2020. And Scotland's National Clinical Director has warned there must be reverse gear if Glasgow Euro 2020 fan zone leads to a surge in COVID cases. So Professor Jason Litch said that experts would closely monitor the data linked to the event, which opens at around 3 p.m. So in that regard, he also defended the decision not to carry out temperature checks on Glasgow Green or making testing compulsory. So opposition politicians have criticized the plans given the tight rules in other sectors of the country. And on Thursday, talks between Health Secretary Hamza Yusuf, the clinical advisor at Glasgow City Council, and other partners concluded without any changes to the management of the site. So up to 3,000 fans will be allowed at any one time. Social distancing will be enforced, and alcohol can only be purchased via table service. So the first game is to be shown live on the giant screen will be Friday's opening match between Italy and Turkey, which kicks off in Rome at around 8 p.m. So yeah, the fan zone is scheduled to show every match during the tournament right through to the final at Wembley on 11th of July. So speaking all of these things, Professor Lynch warned that if it goes badly, there will be a reverse gear. So what's going to happen is we're going to fall back into that situation where, okay, this is what happened. Well, we can't really prevent it now. We are back to square one, and Glasgow, in that matter, Glasgow will be put into a lockdown again, in a lockdown situation, and that's something we want to prevent as much as possible. So with that regards, like I said, this is something that we have to look into. The government has to look into this as well. The government governing actually Scotland should look into this as well. And like I said, the National Clinical Director said Police Scotland and stewards would watch closely and would monitor the site. And he went on to say that a group, including Scottish government and police health advisors, would look at data all the time and make sure it's done as safely as possible. And he also said that the program temperature checks were unreliable and recommended that people get tested before entering the fan zone, although it is not mandatory. So it's not mandatory to get tested is what they're trying to say. And that is, a big fear right there. And that is a big concern because, like I said, you're going into this place where it's going to be packed with a lot of people. A lot of people are going to come in there. They're going to be drunk as well. It's going to be booze and all of that stuff there. But at the same time, people are not going to and people will tend not to behave themselves, even though it is social distance. So we have to consider those things in regards as well. We have to make sure that we look into this as well, because even though it says social distancing, how can you promise the other person is not going to come over to your table and spread whatever they have on their person? So they have to find different ways to implement this, and to do that, they have to make sure, before you come into the Eurozone 2020, well, make sure that you are either you're vaccinated or you've checked your temperature, your COVID negative test, you've done a COVID negative test, and you are you're negative. So they're not even doing that, and they're not even doing temperature checks. It just goes to show that this is going to be disastrous if they don't look into this as soon as practical. So looking at all these things, following Thursday's meeting, Mr. Yusuf said every ticket holder would be asked but not obliged to use the lateral flow testing kit. And he added that planning had been meticulous to minimize the risks of transmission. So the venue is outdoors with capacity for more than 25 times the number of tickets for each season, allowing for ample distancing, and physical distancing is what they are encouraging right now. And taking a look at all these things, in addition to this, there are comprehensive stewarding, cleaning, and contact tracing provisions in place, and everyone attending will be asked to take up the offer of twice weekly rapid flow tests. So this is something, they're trying to say, okay, it's going to be safe. You don't have to worry, is what they are trying to say, the people who are organizing this. And the health experts and hospitality leaders are among those who express concern about the plans to let thousands of people watch the matches on a large screen. So there's been an outcry about an inconsistency in approach from some sectors, and in level 2 areas still facing restrictions, including soft play centers, hospitality, the cruise industry, and school sports days. But on several occasions, Mr. Yusuf has described the fan zone as a low-risk event. And Scotland's first major tournament in 23 years gets underway at Hampden against the Czech Republic on Monday. So Steve Clark's team then face England at Wembley on the 18th of June before returning to Hampden for the final group match against Croatia on the 22nd of June. So right now, Glasgow is one of the 11 cities for the tournament. It's host to 11 cities of the tournament, and Scotland's opening game will be the first of the 4 matches at the National Stadium. So due to the pandemic, only 12,000 supporters, that is 25% capacity, will be allowed to attend this event. So with that regards, though, there has been concerns. There's been talks about this. And with looking at all these things, like I said, it is unfortunate that this is happening, but Glasgow also needs to understand, like, hey, you just came out of a lockdown. You've been put down from level 3 to level 2 just a week or two ago. So why are you doing this? Why are you already bouncing back and trying to, throw an event like this? I understand it's been a while since you've done something like this, but at the same time, you have to think about and consider the people as well. And that's just my 2 cents on that regard. And with that being said, though, we've been talking about all these things. I've said a lot actually today, talking with regards to how, the Scottish government is running the country. Well, it's not my place to tell them what to do, but I have the right to tell them what they should have done, actually. Well, what they should do is make sure, that people do these lateral flow tests. I mean, if you were to ask me and tell me, hey, should we even do this? I'll be like, no, because it's not ethical. It's not proper. I mean, you just came out of lockdown. You just came down a level just a couple of weeks ago. What are you even going on about? Why? And I would not even recommend something like this. I hope this move doesn't cause a lot of disaster. I hope this doesn't turn into a catastrophe is what I'm trying to say. And with that being said, though, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much has changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Well, you didn't do very well. And they get upset, And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
That sounds like a smart guy. I mean, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. Me. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid, I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to the show. Yeah, that's right. This is Real Talk with me, none other than your own Nick, keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We got a lot going on. It is the weekend. Yeah, just Friday is here. It is going to be crazy. I mean, I hope you guys stay safe and, you make the right choices, make good choices this weekend. I mean, we know how people get when the weekend comes along. They get a little crazy sometimes. It's understandable. I'm there. We've all been there. We have that time, where we want to unwind. Well, but sometimes, you have to understand the risks right now is not the greatest of times to be actually partying in that way. So yeah, make sure you guys stay safe and try to get the vaccine and make sure you guys keep your appointments to your vaccination centers and make sure you do get vaccinated because the situation right now is not looking as great as it seemed. So yeah, with that said though, if you have anything you want to say, well, hit me up on those numbers. You know what it is. 07852-473-473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. You can always feel free to hit me up and call me and tell me what your thoughts are, on anything that's going on around your neighborhood or, with what is happening in the UK. You can always feel free to call me up and let me know what your thoughts are with that regard. Also, don't forget to check us out on our social media pages. That's right. We're on pretty much on Facebook and Instagram, on YouTube as well. Follow, like, and subscribe and share, Make sure you do that. And also don't forget you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And with that, diving back into the matter at hand right now, there has been, poor nations are more focused on sustainability. So developing nations put proportionally more of their research efforts into sustainability than richer countries, a UNESCO study has found. And the report published every 5 years tackles scientific research output. So with that regards, it shows, countries like in advanced economies like ours, well, we don't really focus that much on sustainability in comparison to these countries. So they went on to say, UNESCO's Dr. Susan Schegens went on to say that we want to know what development path countries are following and the challenges they face. And the report also tracks progress towards meeting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And by analyzing the research coming out of each country, it assesses how much progress is being made and, towards all their targets. And they were set by the UN in 2015 to ensure all countries work together to protect people's health, tackle poverty, and to protect the planet. I mean, these are just some of the things that they've done. And in a wide range and a global study, the authors look at 56 topics that they categorize as sustainability research. That's right. So these include investigations into ecological alternatives to plastic, developing crops to withstand our changing climate. So they want to develop all these crops as well. They want to find new ways to make these crops even stronger with the changing of the climate, and clean water and renewable energy technologies. That's right. So these are just some of the things. So proportionately, developing countries were found to be publishing the most on these topics. And, it comes to these countries, the countries that are middle class or poor. And, in other words, in a nicer way to say, the developing countries, well, they are the countries that focus more on sustainability in comparison to the advanced countries that we have right here, like the United States or the UK or Canada or these countries. Comparison to them, well, these countries do make that effort. They put that extra oomph in, I'd like to say, in sustainability. So with that regards, though, poorer developing economies tend to be more reliant on natural resources and are bearing much of the brunt of climate change. So as Dr. Schegens has said, it is more of a question of survival for them. So UNESCO's Dr. Tiffany Straza added also that under the present reality of climate change, well, ecological degradation and socio-ecological injustice, many countries do not have the time to wait before understanding and acting towards their sustainable development. So floating plastic debris in the ocean was the sustainability topic that showed the fastest growth in research output, increasing from 46 scientific publications in 2011 to 859 in 2019. But Dr. Straza said it was a concern that there had not been a boost in the scientific output in some research area that would enable richer countries, advanced countries like ours, to help meet the sustainable development goals and to fight climate change. So for carbon capture and storage research, she said, output even declined among high-income economies. So when it comes to matters like carbon capture and storage research. Well, like I said, when it comes to energy, when it comes to all these things, well, right now our economy as well has not really fared that much better. So we are, like I said, we are all at a learning curve. It's a curve that I'd like to think that we are all going there slowly and steadily. We're all going there, but to do that, we have to do it together. We have to stick together. And with that in mind, it shows that there are a lot of these researchers right now when it comes to coming down to the point that is sustainability. Well, a lot of these countries right now, researchers have shown that there's been a boost, there's been a change in the way things are going in comparison to 2011. So back in 2011, we didn't have that much research. When currently in 2019, well, we've got a lot more with that regard. So in that regard, we've been researching, we've been doing a lot of this. So with the rise in technology as well, the researching capabilities have improved drastically. So it just goes to show, that meeting these goals will require information and action. So we have to prioritize our scientific funding and efforts. So more broadly speaking, spending on science worldwide increased by almost 20% between 2014 and 2018. So the United States and China account for nearly 2/3 of this increase, while 4 of the 5 countries still invest less than 1% of their GDP. So that is in the scientific research department. So not that many countries actually focus on this, and they don't really care that much, I'd like to say. And UNESCO is calling for countries to invest more in research, something that Dr. Shiggins has said that becomes even more urgent in the face of the COVID pandemic. So we really need to think about more prevention. During the pandemic, we've seen an emphasis on catching and finding a cure, but it would be much better to have prevented the pandemic in the first place. I mean, we could have done this, and what she's trying to say is, it basically emphasizes that if we spend more on researching, well, what we could have done is we could have prevented this, and we could have really avoided all of this struggle, like right now, the rise in this COVID pandemic. We could have put a stop to even before it blew up like this, to this extent and to this magnitude. And the pandemic, its economic impacts and ecology, they've all linked. So every time we cut down part of a tropical forest, we're at risk of liberating new animal diseases. So we should really learn from the lessons from this and invest in sustainability research and learn how to preserve our environment. So with that regards, though, she is saying that we have to watch out what we do and make sure, that because right now we're at a point, we're at the forks end of the road where we have to make a decision on what we're supposed to do research on. So hopefully in the G7 summit, they will be talking about things like this as well, because this has to be considered, this has to be taken forward, and this has to be noticed. Because right now, like I said, when countries like the poor nations and the countries that are not well off in comparison to the UK, well, these countries are some of the countries, that focus, and they know their focus should be on sustainability. So we, as an advanced economy, we should make sure that we do our best as well and focus on the bigger picture rather than just focusing on the little. So that's very important at this particular point in time. We need to do that. We need to focus on all of these things, because we could have, like the researchers said, we could have prevented an outbreak like this to this magnitude. I mean, would there been an outbreak? Well, there would have. Most probably there would have been an outbreak. Would it have been this big? Well, maybe not, because if we did put our money in the research, this wouldn't have expanded. It wouldn't have escalated to this point right now where we are struggling and where the whole country, the whole world, as a matter of fact, has shut down for more than a year. So that's just crazy. That's just crazy to see how the situation has changed. We could have changed all this if we did a little bit more funding and spending on our researching field. But, these are things that we realize, and like how children make mistakes, you realize afterwards through experience. Well, this is just, some of the things that we have to experience as a society. It's a terrible thing. It's a horrible thing that has happened and befallen us as our, the whole species, our mankind has gone through something like this. But this is this is where the learning curve begins. This is where we realize. And then, in the beginning, we didn't have that information, but now we do. We have information. We know how to do this. The next time we do get a virus or something of a pandemic of this scale comes up, well, we will find ways and alternatives on how to quickly deal with it and how to quickly proceed with it and how to act before, it spreads to this capacity. And that is something I'd like to say that, the only good thing that has come out of this whole pandemic is we learn on how to deal with this and how to realize. And then we realize also that the things that we really think that we needed, we don't really need them as much. Because look, we're still surviving. We're still doing the things that we need to do and that needs to be done. So with that regards, there's just a lot of these things going on. So hopefully, as a whole, we can prevent all of these things from ever expanding to this point again. But yeah, with that being said, I'm done with my rant. We're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you'll interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. Hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh. and climb Mount Everest. That is one of my that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do. Hopefully,
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
You're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
and it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Relaks, that's right. Where we believe in positivity and none of that negative stuff. This is a real talk with me, Nick, keeping you company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're almost about to end our show, but we still got a couple more minutes left before the clocks hit 6. So I'll be keeping you guys company until then. So if you have any dedications or any shout outs, well, feel free to hit me up. The numbers, it is 07852473473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. And we're going to be talking about a lot of these things that is going on in the UK right now. And with that regards, though, looking at the stuff that is going on right now, and that all the things that is that is making headlines, actually, I'd like to say, is that the PM pledges £430 million for girls missing education amid the aid row. So, there's this aid issue that is going on right now. And Boris Johnson at the G7 summit has pledged £430 million to improve education in some of the world's poorest countries, with girls' education's a priority. So he's going to make that a very top priority and make it a very important point with that fact. So the Prime Minister said it was a source of international shame that so many girls in poor countries were missing out on access to schools. So with an education, these children could have been titans of industry or scientific pioneers, he said, but aid agencies called for a reversal of cuts to the UK's aid budget. So the best way we can lift countries out of poverty and lead a global recovery is by investing in education, and particularly in girls' education. So that's the Prime Minister's, what he told the world leaders gathered in Cornwall today. So this is what he was trying to talk about, and he was trying to bring this topic up. So the Prime Minister has made girls' education a flagship issue of the G7 summit, and the summit will approve plans to get 40 million more girls into schools in countries where girls might either be kept out of school or drop out early. So with that regards, though, the new funding that will be the UK's biggest contribution so far to the Global Partnership for Education, an international coordinating body which wants to raise $5 billion, which is £3.5 billion at an education summit next month. So Liz Wallace of the anti-poverty charity One said that the destructive impact of the pandemic on education in poorer countries have been staggering and a silent emergency. But she said the amount offered so far falls short of what is needed and warned that cut to international aid risks undermining these efforts. So the funding announcement was a good start, but there still needed to be a reversal of shameful cuts to overseas aid, said Rose Caldwell of the chief executive of Plan International UK. So they're saying, okay, right now, this is what's happening. Yeah, we're talking about all these things, but then we have to make sure that there's a reversal coming down. There's a reversal happening because this is just totally shameful on part of our, of the UK and part of the UK's, stance in all this. So this is just a very big problem. And she did continue to say that if you want to change the world for the better, girls' education has to be the place to start. And a better education would mean an upward cycle of improvement in health and economic chance for girls and their families, and would reduce the risk of early marriage and poverty, is what she said. So an example she went on is that an example would be that a child with a mother who can read is 50% more likely to live beyond the age of 5. So Ms. Grant said it was in the UK's own interest not to pull up the drawbridge on some of the most vulnerable, marginalized, and needy people who require this the most. And with that regards, improving education in developing countries, particularly in Africa, would create a better, safer, fairer, and more prosperous world, which is good for all of us. And the government has faced a rebellion, including from some of its own MPs, over the reduction in the international aid budget from 0.7% to 0.5% of national income. So the chair of the International Development Select Committee said it was ridiculous that the government trumpets its commitments to girls' education while cutting aid. So they're talking about all this stuff, but at the same time, they're doing the cuts. So what is going on? I mean, you are saying one thing, but you're doing another. That to me sounds a little bit hypocritical, if you would find a better term for that. But yeah, they went on to say that these things is just big problems. These are seismic problems. And Ms. Grant said the seismic impact of the pandemic meant taking tough choices, including a temporary reduction in the aid. So we are hoping that it will return to 0.7% when fiscal conditions allow. So describing how education could be such a crossover in young lives, Ms. Grant said she'd spoken in school in Uganda to a clever little girl embracing everything full of life. So she says, she met these people and how these can impact a lot of these lives. And the girl told her she wanted to become a doctor, but without access to school, she would have a life of collecting wood, collecting water, making the food. So that drives us all on. Is what she's saying. She said, okay, this little girl said all of these things, and she said she doesn't want that to happen. She doesn't want to be that person. And it shows, that a lot of people have ambitions, have goals, have dreams. So, the people need to make sure that they look into this. I mean, for them to be even cutting, like I said, cutting the aids. I mean, yeah, understandable what they did. They're cutting the aids to help the country. But if it's going to be a permanent thing, that's going to be a problem. So among the beneficiaries of UK's aid is Matadani School near Zomba in Malawi in southern Africa. So talking on Zoom, the head teacher, Givemore Chipanga, said pupils might walk 5 kilometers or 6 kilometers to school each morning, and the younger pupils were in classes of more than 180 other children. So the school, which has been proud of its efforts to get solar power and piped water, has been trying to recover from the impact of this pandemic. So Ms. Chipanga went on to say that he was worried, Mr. Chipanga rather, he went on to say that he was worried that the disruption would push learners permanently out of education, such as girls going into early marriage. So that's something, one of his fears, what he wanted to abate. And the rural school is part of unlocking the talent educational technology projects supported by these voluntary service overseas, or the VESO, which uses these tablet computers to help teachers track the progress of each pupil in such large classes. So what they're doing is they're trying to use this technology right now so that they can monitor and regulate how these students are studying. So this is a very helpful thing and project, in my opinion. So the project, backed by the University of Nottingham and the charity 1 Billion, has particularly helped girls, said the head teacher. So Mr. Chipanga went on to say that supporting girls' education was vital for countries such as Malawi, with benefits to health and the economy. So you have to fill that gender gap, he said. And once a girl is educated, her family will be educated. Society will be assisted, said the teacher, and you can educate the nation. So you educate the nation in a way. If you educate girls, you educate the nation, is what he is pointing out on. And that is a truer fact. No truer fact has ever been spoken, in my opinion. So that is just how it is. I mean, you guys can tell me what you guys think on this. Should the aid cuts actually be happening, and what kind of atrocities that these countries will be facing if we do these cuts? Let me know on the comments below, or you can hit me up and let me know. The numbers 07852473473. That's right, those are the magical numbers, and we will be right back after this short break.
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that would improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation? especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again. It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It'll make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you'll interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh. Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
You're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you, if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite right.
I mean, I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company on the final stretch of the show. That's right. We're talking about all things going on, and with that in mind, though, the restrictions. Although the restrictions, we're looking forward to the restrictions easing out by the time the 21st of June hits. There has been concerns, like I said, with regards to that, and a lot of these public health sector people and officials actually are talking about how they are pushing for the dates to be delayed a little bit longer. So with that regard, though, right now there are 4 numbers to look for ahead of the 21st of June decision. So yeah, these are just a couple of the choices that these are just a couple of the things that they will decide and they will take factor into before they make sure that the country comes out of lockdown. And like I said, with all of that regards, right now, the UK government faces a difficult choice in the next couple of days. They are facing a lot of problem, a lot of drama for people, as well as, a lot of issues as well. So many people are desperate to see the return to normality promised by the final stage of the roadmap to lifting lockdown. But ministers have always said the 21st of June was not set in stone and could be affected by changes in the pandemic. And this is including the emergence of a new variant. So what will they be weighing as they make their final decision? What is going to matter? And what is it that is going to count? Well, the 4 decisions the 4 key numbers to watch out for in the coming of days will be the number of people in hospitals. That's right. How many people are getting affected? How many people are going admitted into the hospital? How many hospitalizations are there? So these are just number of figures that they will be considering. So right now, the numbers are pretty much not as great as we think. There are cases. There are a lot of cases at the moment. So this is just, this just factors in why why the lifting of the lockdown should be pushed. So they're just under 1,000 people right now with all these things talking about. So this means, the wave is indifferent. Right now, the wave is not really set in stone. So the figures have been on a rise. And in parts of Wales that are furthest into this third wave, the northwest of England and Scotland, the number of people in hospitals with coronavirus is faster than the rest of the UK. So there are rising numbers. So how far and how fast, the trend goes, and how, these infections are rising, and how likely you'll get seriously ill from this new variant is just, part of the matter and part of the discussion. So this is also just part of the things that will decide whether we will come out of this lockdown or not. And with that regards, also there's a lot of more other things as well we will be discussing with that regards and in that particular matter. And looking at things and issues like that, the other point is that will be decided is the speed of rising infections. So the Health Secretary Matt Hancock told Parliament on Tuesday that the main type of coronavirus in the UK right now, and that is the dominant type, is the Delta variant. And this was first identified in India. So they say also that it's 40% more transmissible than the other virus, the other previously known virus, that is the Alpha variant, also that was first seen in Kent. So it just shows that this virus right now is not as we thought. It's not as safe. Like, it's more transmissible and it spreads more faster than this particular strain of the virus. So this just goes to show that with that regards, there is issues with relating to all that. And as the Delta takes over, infections are also rising again. So the last week, the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, suggested that UK infections have risen by 60% in 1 week. That's right, in 1 week, that many numbers have grown. So if that growth continues to remain steady, or it is, even if it plateaus, or it picks up, it suggests that the cases will rise pretty quickly if and when society reopens any further. So we'll learn all about these things as we go along, hopefully this week. But the rising infections on their own aren't a reason to extend the lockdown. So the government's key test is whether rising infections, the risk of surge in hospitalizations, which would put unsustainable pressure on the NHS, and also depends on the chances of getting seriously ill if you catch the virus. So the other thing is, you don't want to burden the NHS as it is, because they've already been burdened as much, and they've tried their best, and they did manage their best with regards to this. So the chance of becoming seriously ill if infected, that is showing that it is becoming more and more the case right now. We're getting more cases. People have been also dying because of this variant. So with that regards, though, right now the cases are, the way it looks, it does feel like that there is a lockdown is going to be extended for some more time. So we got to see is with regards to this. So we will expect more in the coming of days. We will be revealed. Will be revealed in the coming of days by the government. So the number of people who have been infected, who've been fully vaccinated, rather, and this is also right now more than 50% of the adults have given the best protection possible. That is the 2 doses of the vaccine. So there's still a way off of herd immunity, even if you add up the people who have some immunity from having had the coronavirus in the past. So right now, like I said, we've reached that figure where we are at the point where there's not enough, where there's the vaccine. People have been vaccinated. More than 50% of our population has been vaccinated. Adults in our country has been vaccinated. So this is a good sign, but at the same time, we have to reach herd immunity before that. And if we do get to that point, then at least it would be safer to walk around the streets. So say each infected person would, on average, pass the virus on to 6 other people in a fully open society that hasn't seen the virus before. Well, then 5 out of these 6 people, not just 5 out of 6 adults, would need to be able to fight the virus off, and that would be the herd immunity threshold. So that is the threshold right there. That is the point. That is the marker that we are setting our goals to right now, and we're making sure we get to that point. So to predict what rising infections will mean for the NHS, you need to know how fast cases will rise and how many cases will get really, really sick. And a rough estimate is not really going to help if you look at all these things and figures and waves. It's still, like I said, it's all numbers on a piece of chart. It does make a way sense, but then when you think about statistics is never really a set down rule. So this is not how it's going to happen. This is what they project. It could be worse. It could be not. So this is just how it works. And, predicting the future, like I said, we don't really know the way the rising of infection is happening. There is a rise of cases, but we will have to look more before we can even decide what is going on. So hopefully the government does, realize the impact and does, figure out that, hey, okay, this is just going to get worse before it can even get better. So what we'll do is we'll continue to have this lockdown and make sure until at least for another 4 weeks, if they're going to push it, it'll be, in my opinion, better. So we can make sure that we can cut down on the number of cases that are rising across the UK. And with that, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here. But don't worry, I'll be catching you guys again, because I'm looking forward to the weekend. I don't know how you guys are, but if you have anything that is going on in the weekend, well, you can always feel free to let me know and hit me up on those numbers, 07852-473-473. I'll be glad to read them up. But with that, I'll be catching you guys again on Monday right here on Real Talk in Relaks Radio. So make sure you guys keep it locked. So until then, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. And with that, my name is Nick, and I'm out of here.